Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode talk of Daredevil Born Again. Today we have episode 8! So in this episode, Bullseye gets transferred from protective custody into the general population. We'll get back to that later on as to why this happened. But just so you know, it's all part of the plan. And if the plan goes the way that it's supposed to go, we won't be seeing Bullseye anymore. So Fisk takes Vanessa to Adam and he confronts her about it, basically being like, look, you are my everything and without you I am nothing. And so Vanessa does the unexpected and she just shoots Adam. And it's like, oh my god, what? Also, forgot to say this, out with the old, in with the new, because this is the first episode where the new people are in charge and the old people are gone. And the up in quality is already noticeable. From the moment that the episode starts off with the blue for Bullseye. Look, it still has the same, look that all of the MCU, since, Phase 3 has had. But, they try with the coloration, with the blue around Bullseye. I love that. But Vanessa shoots Adam, and basically that is the end of therapy right there. Now Vanessa and Fisk are back together. Meanwhile, while this is happening, Heather thinks that Daredevil and Muse are kind of in the same boat. And Matt's like, well, I mean, one was there to save you, one wasn't. And then she's like, I saved me. It's like, oh, you're gonna be one of those people, aren't you? You're gonna be one of them. Cool. But she now kind of starts to go more on Fisk's side about the whole, anti-vigilante task force. And Matt's like, look, Fisk is horrible. Simple as that. And then they get an invitation for the gala that Fisk is holding. And Matt's like, so you've been taking care of Fisk. Look, alright, he's dangerous. He wants you to get to me, okay? That's basically the whole plot between Heather and Matt throughout this episode. It's basically Matt being like, you are a target because of me. He wants me. He aims his sights at you to get to me. That's it. And as she being like, oh, but you're not making any sense, Matthew. Obviously, he's not making sense to her, but to us, he is making sense, and we all know. Also, to the gala, she can bring a guest, so maybe Matthew will join her at the gala after all, because she's still gonna go. But he has to go to Kirsten because she has something important, an important case, apparently. That case is not very important, but we'll get back to that later, because first, she tells him that Bullseye has been moved, and apparently it was on the orders of Fisk. Fisk moved Bullseye, and you can basically see the rest, right? Because, he moved him in order to kill him, for those who don't understand. And also, Bullseye wants to talk to Matt, so that's gonna be interesting. But Matt now is a bit on edge, so when the client is there, he starts to talk about the fact, that he's innocent and all that stuff, but then he starts to lie about something, and Matt just snaps. Then Matt just goes off on this guy for lying, and then he just leaves, and it's like, that is perfect. I love that scene so much, with the fact that, Matt just goes off on him. But then Kirsten follows him, and then Matt basically explains this season, because they don't fully succeed, but they try to make everything in this season, the whole disconnected puzzle mess. They try to kind of connect the pieces of the puzzle. They don't do it fully. They do need some glue in order to keep the whole thing together. So not all the pieces really work, but it's basically like, how we had the White Tiger storyline, the Muse storyline, the Task Force storyline, kind of like we had so many different pieces. Yeah, it was all connected under the fact that it was basically Matt's return as Daredevil and him kind of losing faith in the law in that sense. Because he's like, look, we tried to protect Hector, and he got killed, okay? And then Muse happened. And then also the task force killed Muse, and they are assaulting people on the streets. And, it just doesn't work, okay? What we are just doing here is useless. And then we got someone sitting right there, just lying about stealing from teachers. I'm done with this. And then he just storms off. And where does he go? But the man goes back to continuity, to Josie's bar. He's standing outside, and Josie opens the door. It's like, hey, you want to come inside? So he goes inside, and then Cherry also joins in as well. He kind of starts to berate Matt for, being Daredevil again, and also picking. I do like the line about picking the worst time, because, yeah, he did pick the worst time to return as Daredevil, looking at the fact now we have the task force around. But then Josie comes back from the back, and she has a bottle with her of, I don't know, I guess expensive alcohol. And she's like, let's pour this drink for Foggy, because this was the last drink that he ordered. And Matt's like, well, no, he didn't. But it's like, yes, he did. And then Matt realizes, he kind of starts to put the pieces together, and that is the fact that Bullseye was not killing Foggy because of the fact that he wanted revenge. This was targeted because Foggy had a case that was talked about in the first episode that he was going to win. Foggy had the case, it was done deal. Foggy was celebrating early, and then Bullseye killed him so that the case would just not go through. So there was a targeted attack. So Matt then leaves, and then Josie's like, he didn't use his cane. Cherry's like, I didn't notice. So he goes over to Bullseye and talks to and asks him about the fact, like, you were hired by Fisk, right? Why would you work for Fisk? And Bullseye doesn't really give him any answers that he needs, outside of the fact that basically confirming, yeah, apparently it was Fisk, which I know people are gonna have issues with. I'll wait until the next episode to see how this happens, because if he was actually working for Fisk, that would be terrible. Looking at the fact of Season 3. There's no way he would work with Fisk. However, it could be something like he was working for someone who was working for Fisk, but Bullseye didn't know that that guy was working for Fisk. So when he got the orders to kill Foggy, he didn't know that those orders came from, like, high up. In that sense, that is something that they could do. Kind of like put a middleman in between, and then he only figured out that it was Fisk a little too late, maybe in prison. But Bullseye then says an interesting line about, like, like, if, you know, in another universe, you would have actually helped me because of the fact that you have to defend even the worst enemy. Or something like that. I forgot the quote, but it was a really good quote. I recommend you look up that quote. But that was a really good quote, which will also be something to do with the end of this episode. But then Matt just starts to beat him up, smash his head on the table, and then calls the guards like, he went insane. He just smashed his head. Because I can't do that. I'm blind. Also, I don't know if Bullseye knows that Matt is Daredevil or not. But also, Bullseye, you are not Matt's main enemy, okay? You're not the #1 enemy for Daredevil. That's Kingpin. I don't care what you say. You will always be second to Fisk. So then we have the gala begins. We get to see all the players that we have around here. I'm not really gonna fully cover the gala. I'm just gonna talk about the interesting bits in the gala. But we get to see all of the players. Even Swordsman is here. All the players are here. And then we cut back to Bullseye, who apparently Matt knocked out his teeth when he smashed them on the table. So Bullseye uses that tooth as a weapon and escapes, which is like, okay, I get that early escape part. But then he's just wearing like a police uniform with like a hat on. It's like, oh yeah, nobody knows that it's Bullseye. No, how is he able to escape so easily? Because obviously, this was an actual escape, not a planned escape by Fisk or something like that. So Bullseye escapes, he's gone. So Heather is sad at the party that Matt isn't there, but then Matt arrives and he's beelining it for Fisk. He is ready to take on Fisk, at least maybe with words. I don't know if he's gonna punch him. But then Heather gets in the way, and they have a little bit of a talk, you know, the extended version of what we had at the apartment about the fact that it's like, Fisk is after me and uses you to do that stuff, that kind of stuff. So they kind of just talk about that. She doesn't understand anything about it, understandable. But then Fisk takes the swordsman with him and is like, look, I need money for the Red Hook pier. Give me your money. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. And then Fisk is like, I know you're the swordsman and I can easily send my task force after you. No matter how you look at it, at least it's gonna be worth looking into. Even if, you know, you're not the one, I could still send my task force and they could still beat you up in that sense and destroy your property through the search because of the police violence that they are doing. So then I guess Swordsman's like, okay, fine, I'll help you with the pier. And then when Fisk is done with that, reporter apparently takes a picture of it and tries to escape, but then Fisk sends his task force after him, and then the main task force guy takes his stuff, and is ready to burn his hand in like oil. And then the commissioner is like, hey, you stop. And it's like, I haven't used police brutality. And then he puts his hand in the oil and it's like, well, now I have. Also, you're not my boss. Fisk is my boss, so you gotta take it up with him. See ya. So he leaves, basically officially confirming that the commissioner is absolutely useless in this season. Like, he has lost all of the power that he once had. So as he goes out, BB notices him, she's also here, and goes over to talk to him. And then we get the epic reveal that to BB that Fisk had something to do with her uncle's murder. And then she's like, oh yeah, I knew. That's why I have been around Fisk for so long. I'm trying to take the fat, bald idiot down. So now it seems like she's gonna work with the commissioner in order to take down Fisk. So when Matt finally has an opening to go to Fisk, Vanessa notices it and I guess turns on the light, or the spotlight turns on, and she then asks Fisk for a dance. So when they are dancing, everything seems to be fine. Fisk silently, but Matt can hear it. Fisk is like, "What are you doing here, devil? Don't you know that this could cause trouble? And also, I know you're back as the devil. I will, maybe take you down for that." I don't know, he kind of threatens him a little bit. But then Buck tells Fisk, hey, Bullseye escaped. He isn't dead like we all thought he was. So then Vanessa starts to become a bit panicky and lets it slip like, Fisk, I need to tell you something. And then Matt's like, "It was her. It wasn't Fisk. It was Mrs. Fisk. It was the woman Fisk." So then he takes Vanessa away from Fisk, which, by the way, the face that Fisk has in that scene when Matt takes Vanessa, he's just like, "What the hell is this?" But Matt then tries to get the information out of Vanessa, like, why? And she's like, does Heather know that you are Daredevil? And Fisk also kind of tries to lean into that, being like, "Why do you think Matt's so focused on vigilantes? Why do you think that is?" And it looks like they're about to spill. Also, Bullseye has arrived. He's climbed to a vantage point and he's ready to shoot Fisk. And I thought Matt was gonna jump in front of Fisk because that was already confirmed, by the way, through season 2, because that was like a couple of weeks ago. There was like behind the scenes of like season 2, and it was like a flyer, and on it was like, Matt took a bullet for Fisk. So I knew that this moment was happening, but I thought he was gonna take the bullet for Fisk because of the fact that Fisk was about to out him as Daredevil to Heather. But no, I don't even think he noticed that because he was too focused on Vanessa. But he hears it. We got the really cool camera angle again, and then Matt jumps in front of the bullet and takes one in the shoulder. And that scene of Fisk holding Matt is just such a beautiful scene. I wish I could have used it for the thumbnail, but I couldn't find an image of it when I made the thumbnail, so, well, sadly enough, it's not gonna be possible. But Fisk then drops Matt. Matt falls to the floor, is bleeding. Heather is like, "No, my Matthew!" And that's how the episode ends, and then we get a bunch of red around Matt. Not blood, but I mean the coloration turns red. And that's how the episode ends, and overall, this episode was so good. Look, I will not truly bash the old crew, because they did do some things right. For example, the Hector stuff. I like that storyline. That episode, I think it was episode 3, was really good. And that was mainly the old people. The problem is just, once we get to the Daredevil stuff, the old people kind of dropped the ball. Last episode, for example. I also know that people are mad about the fact that Muse is dead. Now, we don't know fully if he's dead because of the fact that he is going to return in some way, shape, or form in season 2. So, my guess is that he's gonna haunt Heather, but he could actually be alive still. And the fact that in this episode we had Vanessa just shoot Adam, I did not expect that. I thought that Vanessa was gonna give Fisk permission to kill Adam. But no, Vanessa just pulls out a gun and starts shooting him. And I like the headshot, by the way. Very nicely done. But she just shoots him dead and is like, wow, that's beautiful. Like, I was watching season 3 at my mom's place a month ago, I guess. And when I was watching that, my mom was watching with me. And she was like, is that woman just a horrible person or not? And I was like, yeah. But even my mom, who didn't watch season 3 with me throughout because she had to work, she just like came home, sat down, and that is when I watched the episode when Fisk lets Vanessa into his criminal enterprise, and she was just like, is that just a horrible person? And I was like, yeah, Mom, you're right. Even my mom knew that she was horrible, but I didn't know she was gonna be this horrible. My goodness, I loved the scene though. Also, the Bullseye stuff I liked. I want more information though. The next episode better explain why Bullseye worked for Vanessa, because there is no explanation that I can think of for that to make sense. All right, they gotta explain it. Also, next week, Punisher, baby. Yeah, we're gonna have some Punisher action in the next episode. I thought maybe it was gonna be this week where we had Daredevil and Punisher team up, but no, they're saving that for the finale, and I hope that that one's gonna be an hour episode. I can't wait. My goodness, this show has been a bit of a roller coaster, but overall, it's been a really fun roller coaster. Not every episode has landed. This one most certainly has. I'm also curious about the Commissioner and BB working together, but it's kind of weird because the next episode is the last episode of this season, and there's still so much to deal with. So this is another situation where we're gonna have one season split into two, kind of like Loki, which had one full season, but that idiot was split into two in order to make season 1 and 2. So my question is, are they gonna do a season 3 of Daredevil Born Again? Because I would watch that easily. This is the best thing Disney Plus has ever put out, because everything else has been kind of garbage. I mean, look, I will say that Loki season 2 technically is better, but I like this more. I don't care. I like this more. Okay? But I can see a lot of people say that Loki Season 2 is better. I liked Loki Season 2 as well, but the problem with the Loki show is Season 1 I don't like, but Season 2 I do like, because Season 1 doesn't focus on Loki. That's my explanation. So it's a bit of a mess. Meanwhile, this one focuses on Daredevil in both seasons, so I'm super excited about it. But I can't wait for next week's finale, so I'm just gonna end it here. So, thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new if not already, turn on notifications, and don't forget to check out the Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And like I said, I'll see you guys next week for the finale of Daredevil Born Again. And also, I will see you guys Friday for the return of a forgotten series that I did on this channel. Because finally, after 4 months, I have finally gotten another package, which means the open box series is back. After the Pokemon anime episode talk releases, I will be doing the open box, and this Saturday, we will be looking at the big boy inset open box. And after that, we'll be looking at the other figures over the course of time. I'm super excited, but I guess I'll see you guys for all of that. I'm so excited. Bye!